I started tracking my sleep paralysis episodes in a journal. My therapist said it would help me see patterns, reduce the fear. She had this whole theory about how the unknown amplifies terror, how documentation creates distance. For 3 months, I wrote down every detail. The time it happened, how long I was frozen, what I saw or heard, the temperature of the room, whether the streetlight outside was on. She was right. Knowing the pattern made it less terrifying. It always happened between 2 and 3 a.m., usually around 2:17. It always lasted about 90 seconds, sometimes 2 minutes if I panicked. And I always heard breathing that wasn't mine. At first, the breathing sounded mechanical, almost like white noise. The kind of sound you'd dismiss as the heater kicking on or wind through a crack in the window seal. But when you're frozen in your bed, unable to move your eyes or fingers or even your tongue, you notice details you'd normally miss. You notice rhythm, intention, the slight whistle of air through teeth that aren't yours. But then I noticed something in my notes that my therapist didn't prepare me for. The breathing was getting closer each time. In January, it sounded like it came from my bedroom door, maybe 15 feet away. In February, from the foot of my bed, close enough that I could almost feel vibration in the mattress. By March, it was right beside my pillow. I could feel the warmth of it against my cheek. When I couldn't move, could smell something stale and organic, like morning breath, but wrong somehow. Older. My therapist said it was my mind creating narrative, finding patterns where none existed. She said the brain hates randomness and will manufacture meaning to feel safe. I wanted to believe her. Last week, I woke up paralyzed at 2:17 a.m. exactly. The breathing was there, familiar now, almost comforting in its consistency. At least I knew what to expect. At least it followed rules. But this time, I felt weight on my chest. Not the usual pressure that comes with sleep paralysis. That elephant sitting on your ribs, feeling that makes breathing hard. This was actual weight, shifting and deliberate, distributed like someone was kneeling over me. Knees on either side of my ribcage. Then I felt fingers on my throat, not choking, just resting there, like someone taking a pulse. Cold fingers that traced my jawline while I lay frozen, counting seconds until I could move again. The touch was gentle, almost curious. It moved from my jaw to my temple, following the line of my skull like someone memorizing the shape of my face. 90 seconds, just like always. When I could finally gasp and sit up, I was alone. The room was exactly as it should be. My water glass on the nightstand, my phone charging, the streetlight casting its familiar orange glow through the curtains. I checked my journal, hands shaking as I wrote. Date, time, duration, details. And that's when I saw it. The entries from the last 2 weeks weren't in my handwriting. The letters were shaky, irregular, like someone had been holding the pen while their hand was going numb. The words were mine, the same observations I remembered making, but the physical act of writing them had been done by someone else, or something else. I flipped back through the pages and my stomach dropped. The handwriting had been changing gradually for months, so slowly I hadn't noticed. January's entries were perfectly mine. By March, they were almost unrecognizable. Someone had been practicing, getting better at mimicking me with each passing week. I haven't slept in 4 days. I've tried. I sit in bed with the lights on, journal open, pen ready, but I can't make myself close my eyes for more than a few seconds. Because the last entry, dated tomorrow, says, "Tonight I stopped breathing back," and below it, in handwriting that's now more mine than my own, ready. Sleep paralysis runs in my family. My mom had it, Her mom had it, probably going back generations. We joke that we inherited bad dreams along with bad eyesight and a tendency toward anxiety. It's genetic, we tell ourselves. Just brain chemistry misfiring. I learned to manage it the way they did. Keep your room cold. Something about temperature regulation and REM sleep. Don't sleep on your back. Reduces the frequency by half. And never, ever put a mirror where you can see yourself in bed. That last rule, my grandmother took seriously. She wouldn't even allow reflective picture frames in bedrooms. She said something about seeing yourself while you can't move, about the mind not recognizing its own face in that state. She said it creates a loop, a feedback that lets something else in. I followed those rules for years without question. But when I moved into my new apartment, the bedroom had a closet with mirrored sliding doors. They faced the bed directly, impossible to ignore. The landlord said I couldn't remove them. Fire code or building policy, something about egress and safety regulations that I didn't fully understand. So I covered them with a bedsheet, thumbtacked it to the ceiling, let it hang like a curtain. Problem solved. The first night I had sleep paralysis there, I heard whispers. Not unusual. My brain does that sometimes. Fills the silence with phantom voices, conversations from memory mixed with random neural noise. Usually it's indistinct, like listening to a TV in another room. But these whispers sounded like they were coming from inside the sheet. From behind the mirror I couldn't see. They had directionality. Source. They sounded close, like someone had their mouth pressed against the other side of the fabric. I tried to convince myself it was just the angle, just my mind playing tricks in a new space with different acoustics. The apartment settled differently than my old place, made different sounds, but every night after that, during the paralysis, I heard the whispers more clearly. They were counting, always counting down from 10. The voice was neutral. Neither male nor female, just matter of fact. Clinical. 10, 9, 8. I never heard what happened at 0, because I always broke free before then. Usually around 5 or 4, gasping and jerking upright, heart hammering against my ribs. Last night, the sheet had fallen. I don't know when. I don't know how. The thumbtacks were still in the ceiling, but the fabric lay pooled on the floor like it had been carefully removed rather than torn down. I woke up frozen, staring directly at my reflection in those closet mirrors. The moonlight through my window provided just enough illumination to see, and my reflection was staring back at me, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. But I wasn't screaming. My face was calm, eyes closed like I was sleeping peacefully. My breathing was slow and even. But in the mirror, I looked terrified. The whispers started. 10, 9, 8. In the mirror, my reflection began to sit up, slowly, jerkily, while I remained flat on my back, paralyzed and watching. It moved, like it was learning how, like someone operating a puppet for the first time. Shoulder first, then torso, head lolling before straightening. 7, 6, 5. It turned its head toward the real me. The movement was too smooth, rotating further than a neck should rotate, and it smiled. Not my smile. Something wider, showing too many teeth. 4, 3. I broke free. At 2. Gasped and sat up, and the mirror showed only my own terrified face again, alone, normal, just me in my bedroom at 3 a.m., shaking and confused. But here's what I can't explain. When I stood up, my knees ached like I'd been crouching for hours. Deep, bone-level pain that took 20 minutes to fade. And there were handprints on the mirror from the inside, pressed against the glass like someone had been trying to get out. Small handprints, child-sized. But I don't have children. I live alone. I covered the mirror again. Used duct tape this time. Layers of it. But now I can hear it behind the sheet, breathing in rhythm with me, counting down every night. The countdown gets faster, more urgent. Tonight it started at 5. Last night was 7. I think when it reaches 0, our positions switch. I think I'll be the one inside the mirror, screaming silently while something else wears my face. I get a roommate to help with rent after my divorce finalized. Nice guy, quiet, worked night shifts at a warehouse across town. We barely saw each other, which was perfect. I wasn't ready for much human interaction yet. His name was Marcus. Mid-30s, kept to himself. Always paid his half on time. He had this calming presence. The kind of person who never seemed rattled by anything. I warned him about my sleep paralysis before he moved in. Told him I might make sounds sometimes. Might seem awake but not respond if he passed my room at night. I didn't want him to panic if he heard me struggling. He said his sister had it too, that he understood. Said he'd check on me if he heard anything concerning, but otherwise he'd give me space. Perfect arrangement. 2 weeks in, I had my first episode with him in the apartment. I woke up frozen, staring at my ceiling, hearing that familiar static hum in my ears. The pressure on my chest, the inability to move or speak. Normal paralysis things. I'd been through it hundreds of times. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate, heavy enough that I could feel them through the floor. My bedroom door opened. I couldn't turn my head, but I could see from the corner of my eye. Someone stood in the doorway, backlit by the hall light I always left on. Tall, silent, just standing there, watching. It stepped inside, walked to the side of my bed with measured, careful movements, leaned over me, blocking the ceiling from view. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. My lungs were working, but my throat was locked, vocal cords paralyzed like the rest of me. Then I heard my roommate's voice, gentle and reassuring. "It's okay. I'm here. I've got you." He sat on the edge of my bed. The mattress dipped with his weight. Put his hand on my forehead, cool palm against my skin. "Just breathe. You're safe. I'm watching over you." His presence was immediately calming. The panic started to recede. I focused on his hand, the steady pressure of it, the reality of another person there to help. The paralysis broke. I gasped and jerked upward, and he was gone. The bedroom door was closed. No one was there. The hall light glowed under the door, but my room was empty and silent. In the morning, I found Marcus in the kitchen making coffee. I asked him if he'd checked on me during the night, maybe around 2:30. He looked confused, shook his head, said he'd been at work until 6 a.m., had the time card to prove it if I needed to see it. I laughed it off. Vivid dream, realistic hallucination. The brain does weird things during paralysis, creates explanations for the fear. My therapist had told me that, but it kept happening. Every episode, the same routine. Footsteps in the hall, my door opening, Marcus's voice comforting me, telling me I was safe. His hand on my forehead, sometimes on my shoulder, once running through my hair like a parent soothing a frightened child. And every morning, I'd check. Every morning, Marcus was at work. I started texting him during the episodes afterward, and he'd always respond immediately from work, sometimes with a photo of his warehouse time card, the timestamp showing he was miles away. He thought I was losing it. Started gently suggesting I see someone. Talk to a professional, Last night was different. I woke up paralyzed at the usual time, heard the footsteps, right on schedule. The door opened with that familiar creak. The figure approached, and I felt the bed shift as it sat down. But this time, my actual roommate came home early. His shift had been cut short, some issue with inventory systems going down. I heard his keys in the front door, heard him call out, "Hey, he's still up?" The figure beside my bed stopped moving, went perfectly still, turned its head toward the hallway, and I heard it speak in my roommate's voice, but somehow wrong. Off pitch. "No, stay out there. Don't come in yet." My real roommate laughed from the living room, that easy laugh of his. "You okay, man? You sound weird. You sick or something?" The figure leaned down close to my face. I could smell its breath now, antiseptic, chemical, like hospital air. Whispered, so quiet that only I could hear. "He wasn't supposed to hear me. You weren't supposed to have witnesses." The paralysis broke like a snapped wire. I screamed, really screamed, loud enough that my throat hurt afterward. My roommate burst through the door, flipped on the lights. The room was empty, except for me, tangled in sweaty sheets, hyperventilating. He tried to calm me down, but I could see the fear in his eyes. The calculation. He started looking for a new place the next day. Says I'm too unpredictable, too intense, that he needs somewhere more stable. I didn't tell him the real reason I was screaming. I didn't tell him that before it disappeared, it touched my face with fingers that weren't quite right, too cold, too smooth, like touching plastic, and said, "I'll still visit. He can't always be here, and you're so much better when you let me help." Marcus moves out next week. I offered to let him break the lease early, no penalty. He took the offer immediately, but it doesn't matter. Last night, during the paralysis, it came back, sat on my bed, stroked my hair, whispered comfort, and the worst part? I felt relieved, safe. For 90 seconds of frozen terror, I felt like someone cared. I think that's what it wants. I think it's training me to need it. If something learned your routine to get closer each night, would you break the pattern or trust it? My doctor referred me to a sleep clinic after I told her about the paralysis. She said they'd monitor my brain waves, record everything, maybe find a medical cause. Maybe medication could help, or behavioral therapy. I was hopeful. Finally, science. Data. Proof of what was happening to me. I spent a night in their lab, wired to machines like some kind of experiment. Electrodes on my scalp, sticky and cold. Chest monitors tracking my breathing. Leg sensors, measuring muscle movement. A camera watching from the corner. Red light blinking steadily. The room was small but clean, decorated to look homey. Fake plants, muted colors, a painting of a beach at sunset. But the medical equipment gave it away. You can't disguise the smell of a hospital. That particular mixture of disinfectant and filtered air. The technician said they'd be monitoring from another room all night, that I was completely safe. She showed me the panic button on the nightstand, said to press it if I needed anything, said someone would check on me every 2 hours. I had 3 episodes that night. I could see the red recording light on the camera during each one, could hear the machines beeping steadily, measuring my distress in data points. At least this time there'd be proof, evidence, something concrete to explain what my brain was doing. In the morning, the technician looked uncomfortable when she came to remove the electrodes. Her hands shook slightly as she peeled them off my skin. She said the doctor would discuss the results with me, that I should wait in the consultation room. The doctor came in 40 minutes later. She was young, probably doing her residency. She closed the door carefully and sat down slowly, like she was deciding what to say. "Your brain activity during the paralysis episodes was completely normal," she said. "Exactly what we'd expect to see. REM intrusion, motor cortex suppression, elevated amygdala activity, textbook sleep paralysis." She paused. "But there's something on the video I need you to explain." She turned her laptop toward me, clicked play, showed me the footage from 2:40 a.m. I watched myself lying still in the bed, eyes open but unmoving, the covers rising and falling with my breathing. Typical paralysis. The timestamp in the corner ticking forward. Then I saw it. The doorknob turned. Slowly, the door to my room opened. Even though it had been locked from the inside for the study, the doctor had locked it herself. Checked it twice. Someone walked in. The camera angle was wrong, mounted high in the corner, looking down, so I could only see from the chest down. Dark clothes, dark pants, bare feet, pale against the linoleum floor. The figure walked to my bedside with slow, gliding steps. Stood there, perfectly still, for 90 seconds. I watched the timestamp. Exactly 90 seconds. Then walked back out. The door closed. I heard the lock click on the video's audio. "Who was that?" the doctor asked. Her voice was controlled, clinical. "Did you arrange for someone to visit you during the study? Because that would invalidate our data." I couldn't answer. My throat was too tight. I watched her face, saw her trying to maintain professional composure. She played the other 2 episodes. Same thing. The door opening, the figure entering, standing beside me, leaving. Always 90 seconds. Always the same deliberate movements. "The building was locked all night," she said quietly. "Security cameras in the hallways show no one entering or leaving your wing. But they also show your door remaining closed the entire night. The only camera that recorded it opening was the one inside your room. I asked to see my brain activity during those moments." She hesitated, bit her lip, then showed me. My readings were normal, paralyzed but aware. Typical REM intrusion, elevated fear response, all expected. But there was a second set of readings on the screen. Faint, overlapping mine, slightly out of sync. The technician had thought it was interference, a malfunction in the equipment. "It looks like another person's brain activity," the doctor said, voice barely above a whisper. "Right there, in the room with you, standing beside the bed, awake, thinking. We've never seen anything like this before." She closed the laptop quickly. "They asked me not to come back for follow-up testing. Said their equipment must be faulty, that they needed to recalibrate everything, run diagnostics. The doctor's supervisor got involved, asked me to sign a release form. Something about data confidentiality. But I saw the doctor's face when she handed me the DVD copy of the footage. She burned it for me without me asking. Like she needed me to have proof that she wasn't crazy. That she'd seen it too. I watched it again at home, over and over. Zoomed in on every frame, adjusted brightness and contrast. And I saw something they missed. Something that made my blood turn cold. In one frame, just before the figure leaves, it turns slightly toward the camera. Just a few degrees, but enough. I can almost see the face in profile. It's my face. Older, thinner, wrong somehow. Gaunt. Like I'd been sick for years, but definitely mine. Same nose, same jawline. And in that frame, the figure is smiling. I'm back in my own bed now. It's 2:30 a.m. I haven't slept since the study, but I can feel it. The way you can feel someone watching you. The way you know you're not alone, even with your eyes closed. I think it's been visiting me for years. I think the sleep clinic just gave me proof. And I think it's almost ready to stop visiting and start staying. There's a rule about sleep paralysis that everyone knows, but nobody talks about openly. You see it whispered in forums, mentioned in comment sections, passed around like folklore. If you see something during an episode, don't try to remember its face. Don't study it. Don't analyze it. Don't focus. Let it stay blurry in your peripheral vision, indistinct and vague. Because the moment you try to see it clearly, it knows you're paying attention. And attention is permission. Attention is invitation. I broke that rule. I'd been having episodes for months. Always the same shadowy figure in the corner. Always that sense of overwhelming dread pressing down on me. Standard shadow person. The most common hallucination during paralysis. Every sleep paralysis forum has dozens of people describing the exact same thing. I was tired of being afraid of something I couldn't even describe. Tired of waking up with my heart racing, unable to even say what I'd seen. Just something in the corner, something dark, something wrong. So during the next episode, I made a decision. I forced myself to look directly at it. Really look. Focus all my attention. I wanted to see it clearly, name it, make it real, and therefore manageable. All the psychology blogs say that's how you conquer fear, by confronting it, by removing its power through understanding. It was crouched in the corner where my walls met the ceiling, impossibly bent, joints bending wrong, skin too pale, almost luminescent in the darkness, eyes too large, taking up too much of the face. Not quite human, but close enough to trigger every uncanny valley response in my brain. And the moment I focused on its face, really saw it, it smiled. Not a friendly smile, not threatening either. A smile of recognition, of acknowledgement, like it had been waiting for years for me to finally notice it properly, to really see what was there. The paralysis broke, and it vanished like smoke. I told myself I'd confronted my fear, that naming the demon would make it powerless. That's what all the self-help psychology blogs say, right? Face your fears and they lose their hold on you. They're wrong. They're so fucking wrong. It came back the next night. But this time, it was closer. At the foot of my bed, instead of the corner. Same position, same impossible crouch, but now I could see it more clearly without trying. I could see the texture of its skin, the way it didn't quite reflect light correctly. Still smiling. The night after that, it was beside my bed, close enough to touch, if I could move. Its breath came in slow, measured rhythms. It smelled like dust and copper and something sweet that made my stomach turn. I could see its fingers now. Too long, too many joints. Last night, it was on my bed, crouched over me, face inches from mine, studying me the way I'd studied it that first night. Its eyes didn't blink. I counted. 5 minutes of paralysis and it never blinked once. And I realized something horrible. Something that made perfect, awful sense. It wasn't moving closer because I'd noticed it. It was moving closer because now I could see it clearly. Now my brain knew exactly what it looked like, had processed every detail, stored it in memory. And whatever these things are, they can only fully exist in the minds that perceive them in detail. I gave it form, I gave it definition, I gave it specificity, I made it real. Before, it was just shadows and fear and vague shape. It could have been anything. It could have been nothing. But now, it's concrete. Now it has features I can remember, details I can't forget. Now it exists in high resolution, in my mind. And that gives it power. That gives it presence. It's been 3 hours since I woke up from tonight's episode. I'm sitting here with every light on, drinking coffee that's gone cold, doing anything to stay awake. I've taken caffeine pills. I've got ice water. I've been slapping my face when my eyes start to close, because now I can see it in my peripheral vision, even when I'm not paralyzed. Standing in doorways when I walk past, reflected in windows when I look outside, always at the edge of my vision, always smiling. And I know that if I fall asleep again, it won't be crouching over me. It'll be inside me, looking out through my eyes, using my face to smile at the world I've invited it into. I can feel it already, at the edges of my thoughts. Not my voice, but something adjacent to it, suggesting things. Small things at first. Take a nap. You're exhausted. Close your eyes, just for a moment. Sleep is inevitable. You can't fight it forever. And it's right. I can't stay awake forever. I'm writing this because I need someone to know what happened, to understand that if they see something during paralysis, they should let it stay blurry. Let it stay undefined, because definition is a doorway, and I opened mine too wide. I started recording audio on my phone during sleep to prove I wasn't snoring. My girlfriend said I was keeping her awake, that my snoring had gotten worse. She was irritable, sleep-deprived, threatening to move to the couch permanently. I didn't think I snored. I wanted evidence that it wasn't me, that maybe she was just stressed and projecting. The first night's recording was 8 hours of silence and the occasional rustle of sheets. No snoring. The audio visualization was almost flat. I felt vindicated, planned to show her the proof. But my girlfriend listened to it first and went pale. Actually pale, color draining from her face. "What's that sound at 3:20? She asked, her voice tight. I scrubbed to the timestamp. There was breathing, but it wasn't snoring. It was someone whispering too quiet to make out words. Just the sound of breath-shaping syllables, the rhythm of speech without comprehension. I assumed it was me sleep-talking. I'd done it before, especially during stressful periods. She disagreed. "That's not your voice," she said. "That's not even close to your voice." I recorded again the next night, curious now. In the morning, I found another whisper session, this time at 2:45 a.m. The timestamp corresponded exactly with when I'd had sleep paralysis. I remembered the episode, frozen, terrified, the usual nightmare. I cleaned up the audio, boosted the volume, used an equalizer app to isolate the vocal frequencies. The voice said, clear as day, "He can't hear me yet." My girlfriend moved out 3 days later, packed her things while I was at work, left a note saying she couldn't sleep in that apartment anymore, that something felt wrong, that she'd hear the whispers through the wall, even on nights I wasn't recording. She said it was talking about her too. I thought she was overreacting, stress from work, lack of sleep, making her paranoid. We'd been having problems anyway. I kept recording. Every night, the whispers got clearer, longer. They always happened during the times I had sleep paralysis, though I only remembered being frozen, seeing nothing, hearing nothing in the moment. One weekend, I played back a particularly clear recording. The voice was almost conversational now, relaxed. It said, "Almost ready. Just need him to listen properly. Just need him to understand the arrangement." That night, I had the worst paralysis episode of my life. Couldn't move for what felt like 10 minutes, though the recording later showed it was only 4. Could barely breathe, the pressure on my chest so intense I thought my ribs would crack. And I heard it, finally, in real time, someone whispering directly into my ear. Not in the room. In my ear. Inside my head. Listen now. Listen close. We've been patient. The paralysis broke and I grabbed my phone immediately, hands shaking so hard I could barely unlock it. Played back the recording from seconds earlier. My own voice on the recording, clear and calm, said, "Yes, I'm listening now. I understand." But I hadn't spoken. I was paralyzed. I couldn't speak. My mouth hadn't moved. I played it again. Same thing. My voice, responding to the whispers, having a conversation I wasn't conscious of having, agreeing to things I didn't remember hearing. I've recorded every night since then, too afraid not to. Too afraid to know what happens in the silence if I don't document it. The conversations are getting longer. The voice asks questions and I answer. It asks about my day, my fears, my memories, about my childhood, about my regrets. And I tell it everything in a voice that's mine, but that I don't control. The worst part is listening back. Hearing myself volunteer information I'd never share with anyone. Hearing myself laugh at something the voice says. Hearing myself say yes to requests I don't remember receiving. Last night's recording was different. The whisper said, "Tomorrow, we switch." I've learned enough. I know how to be you now. And my voice that I didn't control, that spoke while I was frozen and aware but unable to intervene, said, "Yes, it's time. Take it." I'm recording tonight too. I have to know what happens. I have to hear it, even though every instinct tells me to throw my phone away, to never sleep again, to run. But where would I go? It's not in the room. It's in me. It's 2:30 a.m. now. I should be asleep, but I'm sitting here, staring at my phone, watching the recording app's waveform. The green bars pulse with sound. It's picking up sound, whispers, two voices now, but my mouth isn't moving. I think it's already started. I think the switch is happening right now, while I'm awake, while I'm aware. I can feel my lips moving, shaping words I'm not thinking. My hand is reaching for the phone, but I'm not telling it to. I'm not controlling it anymore. I think this is the last thing I'll write that's actually me. I think after tonight, something else is going to wake up in this body. Something that knows everything about me, that sounds exactly like me, that can fool everyone who knows me. And the real me will be somewhere else. Maybe in the recordings, maybe in the whispers, maybe nowhere at all. If you had proof something visited you while paralyzed, would you want to see the evidence? This is Dread Dynasty, where nightmares come to life. Thank you for watching tonight's stories. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because the next nightmare is closer than you think. Check the channel for more interesting nightmare